Hello, everyone. It's great to see everybody. I am seeing everyone join in, so I'll just wait for a couple of minutes as people make their way in. And then we will get started. And I'm seeing some names that I know, some people that I don't know. Lovely to have all of you here today. I'm very excited. Let's just wait. Sarah is also here. She's going to be joining through the chat. Beautiful. Lovely. All right, so I'm just going to get started, and as people come in, they can just let themselves in. I do see some of you typing into the chat. Wow, so great to see all of you from all over the world, extending continents. Lovely. We have Kyle from the US, from Oregon. Mary's here. Hi, Mari. We have Feride from Turkey, I'm assuming. Sean, hi. Yeah. So welcome to all of you. I know so many people registered for this webinar, and I know some of you will be Ireland as well. Hello, Sonia. So hello from Paris. Hello to all of you. It is so great to have a worldwide participation in this beautiful knowledge that I am so passionate about sharing. We had great registration for this webinar. I know not everybody was able to make it live. And I know you will be catching up on the recording. And I know people will watch later on our social media channels and on our videos where we share the videos on the website. So hello and welcome to all of you. It is my great pleasure to welcome all of you to talk about OC16, harnessing large business dynamics with this knowledge set that was given to us on top of all the BG5 knowledge that we have. So I just want to start by introducing myself. I do know some of you do know me. I just want to share a little bit about what I'm passionate about and who I am and what are the things that I concentrate on these days. So I'm a very passionate person about BG5. I'm a teacher for 6 years now. I've been teaching for the Institute, and I have been a consultant on all possible certifications for some time now. I'm an advisor, a role model leader, and a natural. I'm also an entrepreneur. We are building a startup that is built on BG5 knowledge. And it's a platform called Career Path Key. And this one is a platform we designed for BG5 consultants to take BG5 into the business world with ease. So those doors will open to you when you go. Yes, we're not that lucky, not human design knowledge and BG5 knowledge. Not everyone in the business world is ready for it. So we have designed this platform to facilitate that. So I have been passionately working on that for the last 2 years in our company Alignment Key as well. My background is in corporate, and that's why OC16 is so dear to my heart. I spent 25 years mainly in marketing and sales in worldwide corporations. And I was able to lead successful teams across the globe, many different roles. I can say I went up the ladder quite fast, enjoying success as an advisor. And I've been working with BG5 for 10 years now, studying it and sharing my passion about it with everyone else. And the reason for this passion was it's helped me so much. So when I started discovering it as I was part of the corporate world, first, it helped me as a person to understand myself and why certain things are happening in my life the way they are happening. And then it started helping me in being more successful in my role. Then I went up, I became a people manager, I became a sales director. And had I not discovered BG5 information and later OC16 and everything I learned, I don't think I could have done what I did in the corporate world. And then as a people manager, I was also able to help and support my teams and the people in my teams to get clarity on who they are and on top of that, how they can contribute to the business better. So this knowledge has helped me immensely, and that's why I'm so more and more passionate about it, Russ. And I have stopped working in the corporate environments now, but working on my own entrepreneurship idea now, which can grow easily into an OC16. So I'm definitely leveraging the knowledge set there. Yeah. So my life purpose, so my life work according to BG5 is being a teacher, dedicating to explaining the same thing over and over. And when I found out about this, when I first read it, and I was studying BG5 back then, I knew deep in my heart, this is what I'm supposed to spread in one way or another, you know? And then things unfolded the way they're supposed to be, the invitations came, and then I also became a teacher of it. And as an advisor, it's really important because our energy can be limited versus some others, but I'm so passionate about this. So as one person who is doing something, what I can do is I can develop the consultants, right, to really take it out into the world and to create these ripple effects with more people than I could personally do. And then designing some systems is also an advisor thing. So that's why we also worked on the Career Path Key platform, which is a system, an end-to-end system that has the knowledge in it, but at the same time, the technology, the sales and business and go-to-market models that help consultants as well. So I really stay true to my design, and knowing it and going through my experimentation, I think has helped me and everyone around me in the business world. So on this slide, you also see my LinkedIn profile, the website, and I can always be reached through the Institute, through my email. I know some of you may want to talk to me after this to see if, you know, OC16 is for you, or maybe some other issues you want to talk about, or just want to bounce some ideas of me. So please feel free to reach out to me with anything. I love being connected. Right. I'm going to take a quick look into the chats. Yes, lovely. All right. So I want to actually, when I thought about what I wanted to speak about in this webinar, I thought I would start with an example from my own life into applying OC16 in a real world situation. I've done previous webinars on OC16 where I concentrated more on being more informative, and those webinars are still available on the Institute's website. You can watch them. This webinar is concentrated more on how do we really apply the knowledge in a real world setting. And I'm the case study myself because it really helped me. So I was both the consultant and the alpha of that team at that time. So I will tell you about the story and how the OC16 knowledge really makes a difference in the business world. And for me, along the years that this story was unfolding, I had started studying OC16. And once I started studying OC16, it was like the whole way of me looking at things, how I saw things, really shifted. To me, my toolkit as a BG5 consultant was not ready. There was something missing in it until I found the OC16 knowledge. Yeah. And once you know what it is, you know what you've been missing. Yeah. So I want to convey to you as much as possible how you could leverage this information as an addition to what you already know as BG5 consultants, and how it will completely shift your way of working with clients, even with your individual clients, and with teams. Yeah. So let me get started on this. And yes, somebody needs to hop off when, yes, please, the recording will be available. So we will be sending all of you the recording, and then it will also be on the website for the Institute, so you can catch up. So happy you could make it. Yeah. All right. So let me start with this example or this real life situation from my own career, and how I've really utilized the information in terms of supporting my team's success in a corporate Y environment. Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about a concept. I'm not going to talk about a model. but I want to really tell you about a real life situation where I've applied this and it's helped me and my team tremendously. So I had been promoted to sales director role, managing device ecosystems in Turkey, and I had a team, which was at that time a Penta, which I will show you. And then it was during the pandemic that I was given more responsibility. So we ended up combining two countries together. That other team started reporting to me. So it was all brought under one structure. And the team really, the team that I had been very successful. So they wanted to give me additional teams to merge the energy into making it more business success and growth for the company, which is a good thing, yes? So it's the success is the signature of an advisor. So I had been sales director for a year, and come next year, my team is growing. And my team in Turkey was quite hardworking, very committed, but they had this huge amount of work that needed to be done. Yeah. So the number of partners needed to be ramped up. The amount of revenue target, we were a sales team, really was very high. So as a manager of that team, I was always looking for, okay, how do I optimize my resources to make this come through? And at the same time, how can I find additional resources in making it happen? And in corporate structures or big organizations, you can't always get the resources you want, right? You know you need them, but you always have to do with what you have. Yeah. So we are under this big pressure of growth, a corporate culture where there's always this push for growth, always striving. Yeah. And when Ra was speaking about OC16s, he describes an OC16 striving by nature. So it can't sit still. There's always pressure for any organization like this, above 10, which is an OC16, to be striving to push for more, because that's how the general pressure in such an OC16 really works. And because we are taking a business angle into these things, organizations, whether they be businesses or they could have been NGOs, but they're put together for a purpose. Yeah. So it's either to make profit, it's maybe to deliver some KPIs, or NGOs have other KPIs, but they're always put together for a reason, and they try hard to achieve that target or KPIs that they were actually made up for. So which puts a lot of pressure on those organizations. Yeah. So high expectations are always there when we have an OC16. So as the alpha of that team, when my team was smaller, I could really do everything by myself. Yes, and I'm an advisor, so communicating one-on-one with everybody in the team, doing everything in our team meeting was okay. Yeah. But once the team started growing and it was on its way to become an OC16, and then the merger happened with another geography, things started shifting. Yeah. First of all, me as myself, I could no longer work with everyone one-on-one. I couldn't coordinate the workload. Yeah, I couldn't be involved in everything. And it was becoming harder and harder. Yeah. And at the same time, expectations are higher, bigger geography, bigger targets. Yeah. I want to show you, this is my smaller team that I first had when we first started. So I had 4 people and me. As you can see, we did have some gaps. It was a successful team. But then what happens when you manage a penta? So when you manage a penta, we know the penta dynamics and how they work. You can take everybody's individual design and start working with them. So I was trained in BG5, obviously, and I'm managing that team. I obviously looked at everybody's design. I communicated with them according to their design. I gave them tasks in congruence with what their design told me about. So we had an initiator marketing manager. So if something needed initiation, I would involve her definitely, for example. I knew like communication skills of my team. So I did my best to apply what I know from individual design and from Penta, the BG5 consultancy that I had into the knowledge. But once the team started growing, things really started shifting, and how I used to manage needed to change. Yeah. So the reason I'm explaining this story as well is if you have clients who work with anything above 5, and if you don't know anything about OC16, you're really missing something, yeah? And you don't know it until you understand what OC16 is. So if you're working with leaders, for example, who are managing teams, they want to grow their team, or they're engaged in organizations where there are about 10 people. So I think about after 5, it starts morphing, but we call it an OC16 after 10. Yeah. So there's a gray zone in between. But if you know OC16 information, you can see how the team can grow, how the dynamics can actually be contributing to the team's success. Yeah. With the individual and penta tools we have, we can't do that in a holistic way. Yeah. So that was what had been shifting for me because I had been studying OC16 and now things were morphing. So on paper at that time, everything looked good. My people were very capable. They knew like they're competent about their jobs. We had our motions in place. But I definitely knew I couldn't manage the things the way I used to because we were going into an OC16. Managing a penta is very different from managing an OC16. Yeah. And as an advisor, I'm here to orchestrate. I'm here to see the big picture. And when the shifts happened, with me moving into this OC16 team now, I knew like I had to do something about it. Yeah. And knowing my team's design even and how the penta as well works, it was helping, but I knew there was something more actually. So at the same time, I want you to think about me as a corporate leader at that time. What happens in large organizations, and it might be true with the clients that you're working with. If you're working with leaders, if you're working with entrepreneurs who have a team, this might be holding true for them as well. So in large organizations, especially in corporate or established environments, leadership is not always about building a team from scratch. We inherit structures, yes. We inherit the older dynamics, and still the leader is fully accountable to deliver and to make it work. Yeah. So at this point in time, I was doing my work in terms of trying to see and utilizing my team to my best. But things started shifting for me when I started asking really the right question that was there. So the question that I asked at the time, which kind of was like a turning point for me, was, what if the way to really being successful as a team, this growing team that I had, was not specifically concentrating on individuals and what they had to do, but the organizational communication flow and specifically on the team dynamics. Yeah. We're so much concentrated in looking at charts and taking people for their individuality, which is a great thing, yes? But the moment somebody enters into a group, things shift for us. So we can no longer express our individuality in the way we used to, because this new transauric form that we're part of is affecting us. Not only is it affecting us as an individual, it's also pulling our focus and direction into different ways. Yeah. This new dynamic that we're part of could easily derail somebody from what they're supposed to do, or could add more power into someone because that dynamic is already there. So if it's like, seeing the waves, so can we ride the waves to make it, help us? That was the question that, I was thinking about. There needs to be more to this, yeah. And I'm able to ask these questions because at that time I'm studying OC16. I'm seeing how things are actually working in real life. Yeah. So this was really the question that I asked. And then after asking this question, what you know, then I stopped looking at people one by one. I knew their designs by heart, right? I worked with them day in, day out. And I started grasping there's more to someone's design the moment they walk into this larger group dynamic. Yeah. So then instead of looking at the at the individuals and how I can support them, I started looking at the team as a living system, if I can put it that way. I started looking at how the work can flow better and how the communication can really be made internally and with our external partners, because we were a sales organization and all our business is done through partners. So we were growing into an OC16, but the partner ecosystem we were affecting is really like this big OC16 that kind of replicates itself. Yeah. And we have a question, what's the definition of group in this context? Are we talking about 3 or more or 5 or more? So when we look at group dynamics from BG5 plus OC16 perspective, a penta is anything up to 5 people. So from 3 to 5 is a penta. Yeah? And if the penta has one more person than 5, it needs to start building another penta. So penta is limited at 5 and starts at 3. Now the OC16 starts at 10. So thank you, Sarah, for putting that into the chat. So anything above 10 is an OC16. And Evelina has a question, and what about the WA then? So the WA and OC16 are actually very similar things. Yeah. A WA is a group of people above 10, which can just be there physically, orally together, but they might not have a common purpose. So if you go to the shopping mall, you're in a WA. If you go to a football stadium, you're in a WA. But an OC16 is also a WA, but an OC16 is a WA that came together for a common purpose. Okay, maybe we're a business, 10 people working under the same company, or maybe we are a football club, yeah, or a sports club, or maybe we are a class of BG5 consultants above 10. So then if there's a common purpose and an organizing mechanism within the WA itself, where people have certain roles, they're contributing, then it becomes an OC16. Yeah. Now, and if this group is removed, do the mechanical principles still apply? So this is a question that's very deep. The way Ra explained the penta and the OC16, he explained it that these mechanics work in aura. However, we know from experience that when people are committed to an OC16 or a penta, and they never come together in aura, there's something that's still happening in the background. So even if you are an individual and you're not committed to any penta or an OC16, you just work with your chart, yeah. But the moment you're committed and you start engaging with a transauric entity, things start shifting. The way Ra explained it is he said these only happen in aura. Yeah. Right now, how we apply the information with clients is looking at the clients. Do they come together in aura? How often? Do people work a lot in their own individuality? Maybe they work from home in front of a computer. How much do they connect? Yeah. And then we would draw up the charts. So we would draw up the OC16 chart for the team, draw up the pentas, look at individual designs, and then we would run it by the client to see how they're really seeing it unfold in their lives. Okay. So it's like if the team is hybrid, or they're removed, we will still be able to apply the information, but we would need to check with the client up to what extent it's really working in that environment, if I can put it that way. Yeah, sure. Okay. So then when we, just going back to my example, how we can really start, how at that time I started with that question was, okay, I'm not supposed to just look at individuals. I'm not supposed to just concentrate on the roles, but see the big picture and see what's actually happening in this transauric entity, my team that I had. Yeah. So at that time, I was adding more and more people to the team. as I had shown you, I had started with a penta. I had 4 salespeople, senior salespeople that were reaching out. Actually, I have that here. So what I started off was this, my foundation penta. And then because I knew the business was growing and they were really there was a lot of work, I tried to find resources to add new people so they could take the workload from the current team. Yeah. That's when I started forming my second, actually, my penta. And when we study OC16, Ra actually thought about this, how you can grow a business from like a founder company to a partnership, then to a penta like this. And then the more people you add, there's a methodology that you can apply to really make it efficient and impactful for that company. Yeah. So at that time, I had started adding people. I was adding people to the expansion penta for marketing and operations to take off the workload. And then with the merger and the need for more growth, I added more people into our coordinating penta for business development and enablement. So this is when actually the growth happens, okay, for growth and reach. And at that time, when I first began, I hadn't studied OC16. Along the way, I started studying it. And then what I was doing in real life, what I started learning, and the way Ra explained it, it just fit perfectly well. And it showed me, and we were successful in everything we did. So we were able to grow our business. We got rewarded. I was given more territories in the upcoming years. So my OC16 kept growing. But the example is only for 2 countries for now. But that gave me assurance that the formulas and the thinking Ra was teaching with the OC16 actually works in real business life. Yeah. Because the way he actually thought about it, and we spent quite some time studying this. So you put people into a penta. When you start adding people, you might actually take like some senior person into the new penta and start putting your new people so they're groomed into your OC16 culture, into how you're supposed to work in that group, what's expected of you, and also get support from the older guys. Yeah. And that's what I had exactly done. And then when I started adding more people to do more growth, this was also a sales team, but I kind of had them supported through the foundation penta. So I had paired them up. And this is how also Ra has explained it in a way. And it clicked perfectly. So it's very hard to test. When you work with individuals, it's easy to see, like, does it make sense to them? Are you creating impact in their life? But a lot of us, there's limited application of BG5 with teams, right? So it's very hard to test. If you have a few clients with pentas, like you can test it, right? What we're saying is right or wrong. But early when I was studying OC16, I had a real life example where I saw that what Ra thought can be really applied, and it really works to make a team very successful. I think I jumped the slide. Did I want to cover anything? Oh yeah. So the other thing Ra speaks about is you can, when you're working in large teams, anything above 10, so you might get clients where you're asked to work with a team of more than 10 people. Then you obviously will bring in your OC16 knowledge to put the people into how the business really breaks into 3. Yeah. And then see the dynamics there. Or you could be asked, let's say you're working with a leader, you're working with an entrepreneur, and they really want to grow their business. How can they do that successfully by leveraging everybody's design? The answers are in the OC16 knowledge set, actually. Yeah. All right. And Evelina has a question. Do you ask for their birthdays and times? Yes, of course. I do. Yeah. I haven't had any problems with getting people's birth data ever. I think it might be from the confidence of where you stand. With teams, though, usually if the leader or the company is interested, what we recommend is the people who are going to give their birth data for an analysis for the company, I recommend that the participants also benefit from that. So in my experience, when I worked with either pentas, like businesses that were pentas or OC16s, I always encourage that the participants are given something. So we get their birth data. I obviously have access to their design. And then maybe we run a workshop for them, or we give them some reports, or we give them some sessions. So then people are, if there's any possibility that somebody would say no, people wouldn't say no. So I didn't have anyone not give me a birth data ever. I've been doing this for 10 years now. People are, yeah, Sarah is also sharing in the chat. People are usually excited for their chart. They start asking questions a lot as well, and they're very curious. Yeah. And on a personal note as well, just jumping between OC16, because I told you about Career Path Key as well. So that platform we designed is actually combining BG5 with an assessment, and that was one of my ideas. To work with multiple people, it's really hard to get one by one everybody's birth data. So can we do this systematically was my question, and that's something we embedded into that platform, because now they're answering some assessments and they also give us their birth data, and then it's automatically in the system, so we don't have to go one by one for asking. So that has also helped. But I have had this very recently. Before I only applied my OC16 and BG5 knowledge, and I didn't have any problems there. So just trust the process and be confident when you're asking, and it just falls into place. Because there's so much benefit the people are going to get with what you do. Yeah. So usually they're happy to give. All right. Then very quickly, I have shown you the Penta expansions and how I was organizing my team, but I started looking at it holistically, yeah, instead of just looking at people's designs. So that was the main difference. Yeah. And then another big realization for me came, and again, through what I studied in OC16, and that was the change in communication needed to operate in a team that's larger than 10. Because you can no longer communicate one-on-one. So the way we're going to do the work fundamentally must change. So that shift and how a leader can really expand on that is also given to us in the OC16 knowledge. Yeah. So instead of just concentrating on this one-on-one push and following through, I became more clear in creating the right connections and the communication lines between the people. And in OC16, we spend the whole semester studying how to utilize the communication lines and how to benefit from it. Okay. Because first, the realization was, don't look at just individual charts, look at it as a system. Then through the OC16 lens, I'm seeing this as a transauric thing, as a system. The establishment of the communication and how people are interacting is definitely different. So as a leader then, how do I take advantage of this? Yeah. How can I create the right connections? And when we study the communication lines in OC16, you're also given this answer, because if somebody has certain activations and power bases, according to OC16, it means they can speak the language for that. So they know how to communicate in that area well. And if they have definitions in that area, and I can show you an example from my chart, or an example from a sales manager that I had in my team, for example. So just looking at his chart and his OC16 activations, and I'm assuming a lot of you are BG5 certified, and you might have seen this. This is the OC16 spreadsheet, and we spent just one class in the BG5 certification, so you have this, so you can see somebody's OC16 activations, at least, if you're going to coach with them. And this sales manager that I had in my team, an express builder, and he was a 3-5, you can see he has the OC16 channel of interaction, for example. And he has some activations in competitiveness and direction. So automatically, this is telling me if I'm going to do anything that requires a project, and outreach to the partner ecosystem, or anything that requires interaction, which is the emotional feel of a group as well. Okay, because interaction in OT16, that whole power base is about pulling everyone together and regulating the emotions of the group. So for me, this meant within the OC16 that we have and the partner ecosystem that we have. So then if I wanted to do anything with the partners or the bigger organization that we have, I immediately know I have this person who can communicate through those lines within the bigger OC16. So I started looking at it from a different perspective now. How can I utilize all these people I have to do the things, to ride on the wave of the OC16 mechanics? For example, he was a senior partner sales manager. I gave him the partner community work, the partner enablement and growth work, establishing these partner clubs. We used to do some clubs, like some partners concentrated on certain things. And he was very successful. If I had just looked at his design like this, I wouldn't have known that I could really take advantage of this and these other activations. So as a leader, you can then start looking at these metrics that you can really use. So as a consultant, if you happen to work with a client who's part of such an organization, you could actually coach them and groom them into seeing these things. Yeah, you can make recommendations like this. And if they try, yes, just like we experiment with our own design, you encourage them to try things out because you think it might work because of what we've been taught in through OC16. My experiences, they really did start working for me. Yeah. So Gordana, sorry, I came late. How big is the company? So the company I used to work for is Microsoft. It's about 180,000 people, but my team had grown into an OC16. So I was managing, so it was a very big company. And the organization I was personally managing was also an OC16 in itself. And when you look at OC16's application, so individuals connect to pentas, pentas connect to OC16s, and then OC16s are replicating themselves, okay, to like fractal geometry, and it grows into the bigger organization that it is. Yeah. And I'm just going to jump back. Yes, so for me, and what you can offer your clients is really understanding the communication lines is where OC16 really makes the difference, okay, through the really practical lens. And then I also want to show you me as a leader at that time. So this is my design, and you might think this is complicated. Yes, we're looking at this usually, but at the Institute, we have an access database. It's like a small software that we use to study OC16. So those of you who come to the OC16 certification will have access to this database. So that database, when you feed in somebody's design information, it will give you all of these charts, being able to look into somebody's design, making a small report for them, and then putting them into the relevant pentas and establishing the right communication lines is easy because you can see what they have in their design. Yeah, I get asked a lot, is there software for OC16? It's an access database, it's a software, and it's available to our consultants who study. Yeah. So you'll be able to make these charts to look into people. And this one is my chart. And here I want to draw attention to interaction in my design. So if you look, or maybe let's look here. As you can see, I don't have any OC16 channels myself. I do have some activations, with innovation being the most prominent. So this is where I can relate to the most in an OC16. Interaction, because we spoke about the sales manager or partner account manager that I was showing you as an example, he was very strong in interaction. Remember, he had the channel itself. I don't have the channel myself. Yeah. So to me, as an alpha, I understand this language, but maybe I'm like a starter level. I would be drawn into it. I would be able to communicate in these emotional feels, setting the group thing. But it's not my forte. Okay. But with him, when somebody has the activation, then as an alpha, I don't have to do everything, and I can't, right? So knowing what I can do myself and what I'm supposed to outsource to the team to benefit the team really works. Yeah. So when you see people's charts like this, you can give it a whole new spin to serve your clients. Yeah. In this case, I'm the client and the coach myself, a consultant myself, because I was applying it for myself. But this is how it really works. Then the six main business drivers that we have in OC16, it really can help your clients. It really helped me as a leader, but you can help your clients with this information, because once they start understanding these six business drivers in business and who can help them there, then they can really start shifting things, and things will become more easy because we're riding the way of the transformative form dynamics. Yeah. So it's definitely something you can bring to your clients once you start understanding the OC16 knowledge set. All right. Now I want to leave time for questions. I try to answer as much as possible, but I really want to leave some time in the end to discuss about the questions that you have for me. So I just want to bring to you, so where can you use the OC16 with your clients? Yeah. So if your client is leading a department or a function, if they're managing cross-functional or remote teams, if they're an entrepreneur and they want to scale their business, yeah, so you might be working with people from the business world, or it could be they're part of an NGO, a football club. It could be anything, yeah, anything above 10, an organization that's together. Maybe they're an entrepreneur and they want to scale their business or organization, yeah, and you might have individual clients who are part of these organizations. Let's say they want help with their career. If you just look at their human design chart, their BG5 chart, you can help them to an extent. But if they want to be successful in an organization, you have to start digging into their OC16 knowledge. Yeah. So to me, my BG5 knowledge was not complete until I studied OC16. And because I come from the corporate world, the people in my fractal, yes, my potential clients, people who are interested in me, happen to be in such environments. So for me, it was very obvious that I needed this information in supporting the clientele that's really attracted to me and where I'm naturally connected. Yeah. So if you have such clients, then OC16 is a must-have in your toolkit. Yeah. To me, it really shifted a lot in terms of me serving as a consultant. Yeah. So Diana has a question. Can you benefit from this even if no one else in your organization is on board with this work? Yes, you can, Diana, because okay, I'm going to go back to like BG5 basics that we share in BG5 consultancy work. Remember what Ra actually said. Why he started teaching BG5 was not everybody is looking for spiritual awakening. Not everybody wants to know about their design and start their experimentation. But he said by studying BG5 and later OC16, what we can do is we can work with an organization, although nobody in the organization might be interested, but maybe one person is hiring you for that organization. You can make some changes within that organization because you know how to take benefit from everybody's design. And you can really create a positive for everyone in that organization. And they don't have to go through their human design experiment, or they don't have to know anything about BG5. It just takes one person that's interested to be able to apply these things to that organization. Usually that can be the HR, it could be like the general manager of the organization. Sometimes it's the owner who hires consultants like us to do this work. Yeah. And that's why BG5 was designed. That's how it kind of really works. Marika says, you missed a few roles in your first penta, but still your team was successful. How does this work? Of course it works, Marika, right? When we look at a penta, the gaps in a penta tell us where are the areas that this team might be struggling. It by no means mean this team cannot be successful. The team can be successful, but these are going to be the areas that they're going to be struggling with. Yeah? And if they were able to cover what's missing there, let's say they get outsourced, they get information from outside or help from outside, or maybe they have support in those areas, it can work. So gaps show us struggle if it's just a penta in itself. Now in an OC16 though, in BG5, we don't want pentas to have gaps ideally, right? It will cause struggle. In OC16s, we want the pentas to have gaps. Otherwise, the penta becomes so self-sufficient that they have no connection to anything in an OC16. So if you're working with any penta that's part of an OC16, you will no longer look at gaps as problems. You will look at them as areas of focus, and it's where the team connects to the OC16. So looking at somebody's chart, looking at a penta, looking at an OC16 or in an organization, all these things give us lots of information around what might be happening, right? And then as a consultant, our job is to go and run this by our client to see where the starting point of information I see through the charts that I have, all this knowledge set that I have, how is that really reflecting in the real business life? This is what we do, yes? We don't go and assume you have a gap here and, I think this should be a problem. Maybe it's not, because maybe it's being compensated somehow, somewhere else through some other resource. So I always like thinking of the information I see in charts as great starting points, and then I have to run it by my clients. The good thing is the knowledge is so accurate. What we see in charts is usually spot on, yeah? But you have to run it by your client to see, and then you can really see how you can help them. So more has question around, is it enough to be a consultant, or do we need to have experience with working in businesses that are Penta OC16 or in coaching in order to become good consultants? Now, my view on this really is you don't have to have worked in such organizations to be successful. Because if you think about it, as a consultant, you're a consultant who has deep knowledge about a system that can help your client. Your client knows how to run their business. They know their dynamics. So a consultant brings in the knowledge and partners with the person that hired them, because you have maybe half of the information in terms of the knowledge set you're providing, but your client has all the business know-how and they know how to run their business. Yeah? So I don't think it would help if you have such experience. I think it would help, but if you don't have it, I don't think it's a blocker for somebody to be a consultant in this area. That's what consultants do. You don't have to know everything. Yeah. Okay, the other question is, does the company itself have their own chart? And how does the purpose of the company work with this? So in terms of an OC16, we don't have specific like one chart, one OC16 chart for an organization. Yeah, we have that access database that we have. Actually, you put in individual designs and then you put them into pentas, and it can arrange them into OC16s for you. So you're looking at like a three-dimensional or multi-dimensional thing that's there. So it's not like specifically one chart that you can see everything. Yeah. But in the end, what's in that access database tells you a lot about the company. What you could do, of course, you could take the establishment date of a company and run it as a chart, as like an individual. But just, out of curiosity purposes, sometimes I would do that, yeah. But of course, the real OC16 dynamics are coming from the contribution of everybody's individual designs and what we want to do with this information. Usually the asks we get in OC16 I haven't had anyone come and say to me, "Hey, I want an OC16 analysis done. Come look at my company." That's not usually how it happens. They're looking for a specific, they have a problem to solve or they have a special request. Okay. They come to me with that special request. And then I look at all the tools I have, my BG5 information, my OC16 information, maybe pulling some things from the cycles as well. I look at everything in my toolkit, and then I will concentrate on how all this knowledge I have can support that company or that business owner that wants to work with me. And then you pull bits and pieces from the knowledge set to help your client. Let's say they want to grow their sales. Maybe they want to do better in terms of reaching more clients. Yeah. So if they wanted to do something with that, you would map it back to the communication channel that could benefit the most. Find the people in the organization who naturally have this. Yeah. Top it off with what their actual jobs are, right? Because people are actually having certain roles, certain functions that they fulfill, but you can give them stretches. You can put them into project groups. And by looking at their charts, you can select the right people that you want to actually put into these groups, let's say. Yeah. And Sean, yes, he likes this way of looking at it. What is their problem? And how do we use these tools? Exactly. In the end, people don't want generic things. If they're going to come and pay for their services, they're really wanting to get something out of it that translates into something in real life that you can help them with. Yeah. And Pierre's question is, do you provide these databases, Excel files when working with OC16? It depends. It depends. It depends on how open the organization is to see the real OC16 information. I've had sessions where I haven't shown one chart or one database to a person. It's all based on, I know it in the background, but I won't show it to them. But some people are really interested in design. They're into these things and it doesn't cause a problem. I might utilize those charts as well. So it depends on how you want to position and what's the intake of the clients. Yeah. All right. What else? Did I miss any questions? Yeah. All right. Sarah says, I think I got them all, which is great. Yeah, I just had some slides that I didn't show you, but I just want to pull this up in case somebody wants to just pause the recording and take a look at this. But as I said, we study how you can grow an organization. And there's like a formula or a methodology of looking into it. Yeah, so expanding from from an alpha to going to an OC16. And we have a methodology that you can apply for business that are going to be growing, for example. Yeah. And oops, if I could get my pointer to work. Do I have one more slide? Yeah, I think I spoke to this one, but I just really want to pull this up and see if there are any more questions coming. I think I touched on this. So for me, my toolkit was complete after I learned OC16. You all are probably either studying or you're consultants, so you could do individual and perhaps Penta work very well. But the risk is if you haven't really learned OC16 yet, then you might be missing something of like being able to look at it from a different lens. Yeah. And we've discussed, so the moment the person you're working with is in anywhere interacting above 5 people, then you need some other tools, some different perspectives to really be helpful in a right way. Yes, because we don't want to mislead people. Or even like it's basics, right? You don't want to make decisions when there are a lot of people around you because you're being affected by them. Yeah. So it's the same thing. If you coach somebody into their individual design and they keep on going back to a Penta every day, it's going to work different for them. If they keep on going back to an OC16 every day or remotely, it's going to work different for them. So then you're getting this holistic view of everything you need, yeah, by studying deeper and integrating this into the information that you can use with your clients. I'm going to go back to Evelina's question. How long work like this takes with the company? Evelina, it depends on why they wanted to work with me. In my experience, sometimes it's for a specific thing. For example, I had one client. She was really looking to grow her business, and she wanted to expand to more companies. She had two overseas teams. She wanted to increase. This was a healthcare company, healthcare provider. So they were human resource providers for healthcare institutions. And she wanted to look into how can I repurpose the people in my team so I can really grow my business. Yeah. And should there be a different structure of how we do things? Yeah. So the main work was, how do I leverage what I have to get more output for my business? And along the way, she also wanted me to work with her team. So they would start learning into their design, because it always helps when people start working in alignment to their design, and they start tolerating each other better. They also understand each other, how we're very different. So that work was 3 sessions where we did I completed the analysis, and we did sessions with the alpha. And then we really ran 3 workshops of 2 hours each for the team, just to learn their design. Yeah. So sometimes what they need is very specific, and you can work on it for a few sessions, and then it could be something bigger. Yeah. So it just depends on what your client needs. Sure. All right. Are there any more questions? I think I just want to maybe pull up one slide. I just wrote these down. I didn't want to make, very detailed slides. But in the certification program, we study for 3 semesters. In semester 1, we learn about the WA theoretics, which is the 64 gate matrix that we use in looking at the individual's design. So these 64 traits morph into something else in an OC16. Okay. So we start studying how do these 6 OC16 channels work, and what does every trait contribute, and what does it mean in terms of the power base. So we study the WA theoretics. In semester 2, we start studying the personal WA dynamics. So what does it mean for a person that's part of an OC16 based on their design? And here you will learn how to coach a client. Do they belong in an OC16? Do they get distracted into things? Can they benefit from it? Yeah. And we start gap engineering in large groups. And in semester 3, we study the lines of communication and how you can really work with the alpha to orchestrate and take advantage of everything that's happening in the OC16, so it could impact the business results. Yeah, this is what we study. All right, any more questions? I also have the information for our course. Yes, thank you, Sarah. Sarah is putting it into the chat as well. So if you have any questions in relation to the certification, as I said, I really wanted to concentrate more on what you can do with this information. Yeah. If you want any more information into the certification, if you want to talk to me, please reach out. You're always welcome to. Our next cohort is going to begin in a couple of weeks. It's on Mondays, 4 p.m. CET. It's 3 p.m. UTC. Yeah. And I'll be assisted by Daniele. She has extensive experience in OC16s. She also had a corporate career. She is a groomed BG5 consultant helping others. So we will be doing this course with Daniele, and I'm very excited for this. Yeah. And Sean says, are there any approved offerings we can do for others before the entire 3 semesters are complete? Sean, yes. So if you're working with individuals, let's say you're working with a leader of an OC16, or you're doing Alpha 1 leadership analysis. After semester 1, and especially when we begin semester 2, like the first 3 classes are on personal dynamics, so we wrap it up. So when we begin semester 2, you can definitely offering more services to your clients on an individual basis who operate as part of OC16s. But if you want to work with team information, we cover all of that by the end of semester 3. Yeah. So there's nothing stopping you. You can start exploring with them, but to learn everything, it will be by the end of semester 3. Yeah. And yes, question, when can you take the OC16 or advanced certifications? This one you can, if you're enrolled in semester 2 of BG5 certification or S3, the semester 3 of BG5 certification, you're welcome to join. It won't overlap and you won't be missing anything, okay? Because when we do the WA theoretics, it's a complete new set of information, and you would have completed your penta knowledge in the BG5 certification by the time we go to semester 2. And how long is each class is 2 hours. If I run over, I try to do some recordings. Okay. I really appreciate doing a lot of practical work. So I encourage all my students when we come to, especially in semester 2, to have found like an OC16 that they're going to work with. So we can bring those cases and start looking at them together. So everybody starts plugging everything into their Access database. As we learn things, we go through everybody's cases and it creates a better learning environment. So that's what I like doing. Yeah. So 2 hours. And if we run over, we will do recordings. Sean is a little upset is on Mondays and is really booked. I don't know. I started off on a Monday, Sean, but I think next time I offer it. So this is gonna be 1 year, of course. We're gonna do 3 semesters beginning January. Next January is gonna move to a different day and it's gonna move to a later time to accommodate people from different time zones. I know some of you are already also interested in doing the profit potential with me, which is a complete different knowledge set. Yes, if you're working with entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, you really want to look into profit potential information. That's on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. my time. So around this time on Tuesdays is going to be the profit potential. Maybe you want to look into that, and next year I teach it at a different time. So see what suits everybody. And there are always recordings available, of course. It's always encouraged to come to class so we can discuss. But I've had students who really just do the recordings, but they keep on with the class. So they do their homework, they contribute in the forum, they ask their questions. And that's also a way of going through the OC16 certification. I think I did mine more than half of the semesters I did through the recordings because I was traveling extensively working for Microsoft. So I couldn't go live to the classes. If you keep up with it, you bring in your questions, you do the work, you can work through it through the recordings. Yeah. If you're really feeling, now is the time I take this, then, yeah. Any more questions for me? We're past the hour. All right. Well, if anything coming up, just send me an email, reach out to Sarah, reach out to me. More than happy to connect to answer your personal questions. I know some of you might be in between. I know some people are interested both in OC16 and profit potential. If you want to run that by me to see which one is like a more immediate one for you, or you want me to provide some clarity into your thinking around which one might be serving you better, you're more than welcome to reach me at my email is banu@bg5businessinstitute.com. So just send an email and we'll set up some time. All right. Evelina has a question. What is the profit potential? So the profit potential certification is another certification. And it's the application of the knowledge to bring material success and abundance to people. And it's a 2-semester certification. And if you're working with entrepreneurs, for example, solopreneurs, people who are building their business or they're starting their business, then you might also be interested in the profit potential certification. So for every BG5 consultant, it just depends on what's your niche. Who do you want to work with? Yeah. And who do you attract? So do you attract more people from like business leaders, corporate environments, people like working in corporate or any type of organization, but they're in their careers, then OC16 might be better for you. But if you're working with solopreneurs, people who are doing their own thing, consultants like us, profit potential can also be very powerful in helping them. Because the profit potential certification is based on an individual's chart, but it brings a whole layer of how this person can attract clients and create abundance in their life. Okay, I'm also teaching that, and that's also beginning in January. And if anybody has questions around, which is a good one for me, I want to bounce some ideas with you, please just reach out to me. All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for being here live. Shout out to everyone who's going to catch up on the recording. My pleasure being with you and hope to be in touch. More asking, is there an open class for the profit potential? Yes, it's going to start in January as well. So the same week. So Monday is the OC16, Tuesday is my profit potential course. And Sarah put it into the chat. So for those of you who are interested, or you can just come to the BG5 Business Institute's website and look at the advanced certifications, and you will see profit potential there as well. All right. All right. Yeah. All right. So my pleasure. Thank you, everybody. And Sarah is answering a question. Yeah, there's a different webinar. There are more webinars that are coming up. These were announced in the Institute's newsletter. Please look. Tak is also doing some webinars in the following days. And perhaps I will do something for profit potential because there was so much interest, and we will announce that. All right. Thank you, everybody. Take care.